G'day there guys, thinks he's really productive, but he's still lying to himself. It's your main man Marky and welcome back to another episode of r/Am I the A-Hole. Now if you love today's content, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, smash the like button, and enjoy. Thank you. Posted by user Life Insurance's Mife. Titled, Am I the A-Hole for not telling my wife how much money she'll get in life insurance if I die? I have a small family in which I'm the main provider. My wife also works, but she doesn't make as much as I do, and if something happened to me, my wife and daughters would not be in a good place. I recently had a near-death experience, and I decided to get a good life insurance policy. I know I'm a little late to this, and I probably should have done it when I first had kids, but I was irresponsible and hadn't really considered death in an accident happening. So I got a good policy, and I don't want to say how much is in it, but let's say that combined with my wife's income, they would be better off without me than with me financially. Now, I trust my wife, but I do think some things can stand to be a secret in marriage. My wife asked me how much I was insured for, and I told her I wouldn't tell her. I kinda just don't want for her to know the exact amount. I don't want her to want the money. I'm not saying that I think she'll take me out, but I doubt any person that's been offed for their life insurance thought their killer would do it, so I'd rather be safe than sorry. She asked why I wouldn't tell her. I told her that I didn't think she needed to know how much until she had it, and that I didn't want her to want the money. I told her vaguely that she'd be fine and theoretically if I died, their lives wouldn't change much financially for maybe 4 years. She said that I was being ridiculous and paranoid. She accused me of not trusting her. I told her it wasn't about trust, it was just about safety. She went off on me and yelled and cried, accusing me of thinking that she'll try to get the money. We argued back and forth for the rest of the night, and I still haven't told her the amount. I told her I was sorry that our confrontation made her feel that way. I personally still don't think I've done anything wrong. You're genuinely blowing this way out of proportion, and you've watched one too many Netflix documentaries, my friend. Your wife isn't out to get you. There's countless families out there with life insurance policies bigger than yours, and they manage to not murder their own significant others. Crazy how that works, right? Please just stop this lunacy now before your wife loses all trust that she had in you. You're showing her that, yeah, I trust you, but when it comes to money, I can't trust you not to murder me. I think you're capable and willing to do that. Like, OP, that is not a good message to send to your partner. That's genuinely terrible, and this never should have happened in the first place. Otherwise, if this is such an issue to you, why are you still with them? Get a grip, OP. You're the a-hole. Now in the comments, TerripT1 says, You're the a-hole. I watch true crime too, but I would never expect my spouse to tolerate my saying that I think they'll murder me for my money. If you have so little trust and respect for your wife, why are you married and having children with her? You may want to start groveling because if I was in your wife's shoes, I'd be seriously reconsidering the marriage. You've basically accused her of being greedy to the point of murder. I can't even comprehend what that poor woman is feeling. You're the a-hole. Let's not forget, some things should be secret. There seems to be a heavy lack of trust from this guy. What is the safety? She knows there is a policy. If she wants you gone, then she can do it. The amount might be unknown, but it's there. If you're so worried, don't take hikes up high mountains with just her. This crap, or life insurance, is basic family planning when you have kids. They should be having exactly these financial planning discussions. OP is being absurd, you're the a-hole. Assuming this is true, although it's really unlikely, if you're so afraid that she'll murder you over your life insurance, why are you even with her? You're the a-hole. Yeah, if this is true, he honestly sounds like he needs to talk to a professional about these feelings, because that's extremely abnormal and paranoid behavior. I knew a woman who thought very similarly, and she ended up getting a DV charge for thinking her boyfriend had a secret family that he was hiding from her, and she abused him for that, despite there being no evidence. Even if there had been evidence, that wouldn't have justified abuse. Lol, you're the a-hole. You think your wife is going to murder you if you tell her you have a good insurance policy. Gonna have to sleep with one eye open now because she's gonna have to murder you to find out now. There are so many other serious comments here that get the point across better than I, and I do hope OP reads them. But for the sake of entertainment, I keep coming back because I seriously cannot stop laughing at the line, "It's not a trust issue, it's a safety issue." I'm still laughing. You're the a-hole. My partner died last summer, and while he wasn't hiding stuff like life insurance, we just never talked about it. Didn't think it was something we had to think about as healthy, fit 30-somethings, and he died very suddenly. It really, really, really sucked that first month. In addition to dealing with the most emotionally traumatic experience of my life, I also couldn't think about long-term plans, or even knowing if I'd be able to keep the house until I found out the life insurance details. Paying for the funeral drained most of my emergency funds, so it was a financially tenuous period. Posted by user Abrupt Curiosity. Titled, "Would I be the a-hole for making my half-siblings take DNA tests?" So my dad was a pro athlete. He wasn't famous, but he was a steady presence on a team that was. When his career ended after injury, his first wife divorced him, cleaned him out, and got custody of their kids. Turned his kids against him, and never remarried so she wouldn't lose the alimony payments. When Dad met my mum, his ex threw a fit because mum came from a poor family / wasn't white, and according to his ex, she was a gold-digging tramp because she was pregnant before they got married. My mum died when I was young, and we struggled for money between the payments Dad was making and his injuries / lack of education, making it hard for him to get a job. My half-brothers were really well off from his support payments, and the money from their mum and her close friend she was living with. Whenever she stayed with us, they made it clear that they were only there because of the custody order and that they thought that we were trash. When Dad saw how upset they were making me after Mum died, he stopped asking them to come. Dad passed away a few months ago. His will left everything to me, so I'm basically set up for a modest life. And as adults, my half-brothers never had contact with him, not even on holidays or his birthday. Suddenly, they're saying that I'm not his. They're going to compel a DNA test, that I influenced his will, and they're taking me to court. I have no doubts that I'm his, thanks to a DNA test I already took years ago for non-paternity reasons, that they don't know about, but what I am starting to question is if any of them are his sons. Would I be the a-hole for agreeing to take a test, but insisting that they have DNA tests too, knowing that I'm not going to give them anything, even if they pass? They and their mother treated my parents and me like crap, and I wanted to know how far the hypocrisy stretches. I also sincerely want to not have any of them actually be my family. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be an a-hole because even if they do what I want, there's no chance I'm going to let them have anything. So they're coming at you for money, and you intend not to give them anything, even though you're allowing them to initiate a process that would help them determine if they're eligible for a split of the assets passed down from the will. I don't know, unless this has all been legally sorted out beforehand, this is probably just a bad idea on your end. Because what if they are genetically his, and now they sue you for a share of the estate? I don't think that morally you're an a-hole for doing any of this, and I personally don't understand this kind of, family law well enough to make a judgment call on that. So I have to vote not the a-hole, but I would love an update for this one. Info. What would be the point of demanding DNA tests from these people when it changes nothing? Your father left a will. They are not in the will. DNA doesn't change that, so what's the point? I think depending on the relationship, if nothing is given, that they can contest the will, which I assume is why they're taking her to court, so it would just cement the fact that they have no rights to anything of the dad's. And edit, thank you to everyone who explained this to me. I know now this is not how it works, lol. From a legal perspective, it doesn't matter. OP should cut contact and just let the lawyers do their jobs. Getting the DNA doesn't matter to contest, or contesting doesn't matter, ? To be honest, I don't know much about it, was just giving a reason why it might be needed. I agree, but I figured that lawyers would still want DNA tests if they were relevant. I was assuming OP had already been going through lawyers rather than them directly. It matters far less than you would think, and this holds true for both sides. From a legal perspective, all of them were children born of the father's marriage, and he was presumably listed as the father on the birth certificate. Moreover, he died testate, so this isn't an interstate heir situation. Where the siblings are going to have a hard time is that they are going to have to prove that the OP unduly influenced the father. It's not an easy standard to meet. If he had a previous will that also disinherited them, that's a problem for them. The fact they didn't see him in a long time, that's another issue. Their biggest issue is that they are going to have to hire a lawyer, and they don't have a great case. That means a chunk of money up front. I read the post as they were threatening to do these things, but haven't done anything. And, surprisingly, I found an update from the OP in the comments. Update. Many thanks to everyone who made constructive comments and shared stories of their jerk relatives. It helps. In response to some of the feedback, 1. Thanks to the many who suggested getting a lawyer. Good advice. I was always going to consult one, since legal does not equal not an a-hole. I wanted another opinion on the ethics of what I was doing. I'll admit that this post came from a place of rage at something they did unrelated to the will. I already did my will, leaving everything to people other than them, but thanks for that advice as well. 2. My lawyer thinks it's a bad idea. She kinda winced when I brought it up. Not because it could jeopardize my inheritance rights, which in this jurisdiction aren't predicated solely based on genetic parentage, but because it would prolong the case. It might be looked upon unfavorably as game playing by the court, whom I do not wish to antagonize. So that's a solid no on DNA tests. For what it's worth, she also said that this was as close to a sure thing as a disinheritance case can be. A restraining order could be possible. 3. For those who wanted more on finances, custody, and alimony, no, not interested in being possibly identified. And 4, for those who find the financial aspects incredible, first, income for 1 to live frugally is greater than income for 2 to live frugally, plus alimony, plus child support. Such living expenses can also include sudden but high finite medical expenses for someone in the family, which tank your free income for several years. Second, to decrease support payments, you first need to know that it's possible to do that, which many don't. Then, because you have to pay the old rates while everything is litigated, the ex may deploy delaying tactics to hold off the final order for as long as possible, during which time you will also need to be paying a lawyer. Third, worth may increase late in life because investments mature and inheritable pensions start paying. Example, the 40 semi-rural acres someone else rents to farm while you live in the farmhouse becomes worth a lot more 20 years later when upmarket suburbs have expanded into the area and an IKEA is built across the street. I plan on using the 4 magic words, speak to my lawyer, and just ignoring these jerks for the rest of my life, as many have suggested. Thank you kindly, and goodbye. And I guess as always, I'd love to know what you guys thought of that one down in the comments. Was that what you were expecting to happen in this situation? Our next post is by user FitCauliflower8854, titled, Am I the a-hole for yelling at a friend after she passively-aggressively made me a vegetarian meal? So the best way you can describe my diet is flexitarian. Specifically, most of the time when I'm in control of my food, I do not eat meat. However, when I'm being catered for, I always eat whatever I'm given because I don't like being awkward, and appreciate the effort and additional food miles that go into preparing a separate veggie dish. As I fully ate meat until 4 years ago, I'm very happy with my approach. My friends know this is how I am because they see me eating a lot, and it's pretty obvious. They've asked me why I do this, and I've replied, reasons as above, and pretty common reasons for being mostly veggie. Other than when I'm asked, I never talk about my diet choices. Recently, when I was at one of my friends' houses, she made everyone else a lamb dish, and made a single portion of vegetable lasagna for me. It was delicious and I thanked her, but insisted she really didn't need to do that. I'm more than happy to eat the same as everyone else. And she replied with, "Why can't you just be grateful that I made that effort for you? I did this to prove that we can cater for you being vegetarian, and you need to stop using our meals as an excuse to eat meat. You need to be either full-on vegetarian or full-on omnivore, as what you're doing now pisses off everyone. What you do means you can be smug about being a vegetarian, but still get to eat meat. You also imply we're incapable of being good hosts and providing a veggie alternative. It's obvious you think you're holier than thou, saving the animals but also saving us from any extra work, and getting to treat yourself to the occasional meat dish in the process. Make your mind up." I could tell this is how she felt before, but she's never laid it out quite like that. I yelled at her that my diet choices have nothing to do with her, and I can eat meat whenever I want to or don't want, and it's obviously her own insecurities that are making her find fault in my reasonable approach. She replied saying she can't believe I'm not grateful that she made me a separate dish, and I should be thanking her for proving that I can be a full-time vegetarian, and that this proves I use other people as an excuse to eat meat. I stormed out after this. Edit, I've never claimed to be vegetarian. Yes, I'm an omnivore, I agree. They only know I don't eat meat much from watching me. We spent a lot of time together. It's pretty obvious when you always go for the falafel. I maintained that I've made it clear to them that I'm not a veggie and don't expect to be treated as such. Am I the a-hole? And there's also an update in this comment. Jessica confirmed her agenda to one of my friends and had assumed that they all felt the same to her when they didn't. OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. Maybe the approach I take is annoying and obnoxious, and if they're happy to cater for me, I should let them and not comment that they didn't need to. I don't understand why this is such an issue to them, assuming that you have no other problems with these people or this person outside of this issue in particular. Of course, there is an agenda against you with this one person, like you said, but I'm going to also assume that it's just them and not the entire friend group. If that is the case, then you're not the a-hole for this one, and that person is just straight up a vegetarian, vegan-hating asshole. You didn't do anything wrong. You self-admittedly are an omnivore and just prefer veggies to meat. That doesn't warrant the reaction that you got from this so-called friend. So I'm going not the a-hole in this one. And I'm going to read out that comment that OP referenced. I have a friend that calls themselves a flexitarian, and to be honest, it is annoying. Mostly because they still have the holier-than-thou, I don't eat meat attitude, but then also flex that because they are willing to eat meat on occasion, they're more responsible than a vegan or a strict vegetarian. I feel like that's what's happening here. And OP replies, I agree that is how my friend felt. And I get why someone might find it annoying, but I'm also still happy with my approach and don't understand why I have to choose 100% veggie or 100% standard diet, which regularly includes meat. I want to figure out how I can do what I want without her feeling like this. Most people are saying that I obviously must have come across smug, but I truly don't know how to further avoid this when I don't make any comments about my choices. So how did everyone else at the table react when she went off at you? Did they seem to agree with her, or were they shocked? And has anyone said anything since? And OP replies, at the time, everyone else was silent and awkward. We all have busy jobs today, so I hadn't yet spoken to the others, but I have now. They all said they needed time to process what had happened, because to them, it was kind of out of nowhere. Apparently they weren't really sure if Jessica's intentions were pure, and she was just making the effort one time as a nice gesture to me. And it was me being ungrateful that made Jess's rant justified. Or if Jessica deliberately made a separate meal to catch me out, and was planning a gotcha moment either way. They all hadn't noticed her previous comments too, so her views did take them by surprise. Turns out, Jess had admitted to one of our friends that me being the way I am had always annoyed her, and that she never understood the hypocrisy of not being fully vegetarian, and she just couldn't get over it. So she decided to make me a separate meal to prove a point. If I was grateful and didn't say anything, it would prove that I really wanted veggie meals the whole time and have been lying that I'm okay with meat. And if I did say something, it would prove that OP is using us as an excuse to eat meat and is a hypocrite. So my friends are all on my side now. Jessica has admitted that she thought that they would all side with her, as she assumed they all found it as annoying as her. But they don't. This comes as no surprise to me, as everyone apart from Jessica has been 100% cool with it the whole time. I'm still processing these updates, and can't believe the lengths Jessica went to. My friends are all shook, as am I. And just a few more comments, cause why not? Queen of Anything says, "Not the a-hole. Why the hell are you getting so much hate? My diet is basically the same as yours. I never realized it would trigger so many people into this pick a side and stick to it stance. Omnivore versus vegetarian versus vegan is not a competition or a sport where you have to pick teams. Your friend clearly has a stick up her ass about smug vegetarians. All these you're the a-hole comments act like she was doing a nice thing for you, but her rant makes it obvious that she was using the separate vegetarian dish to punish you. You're not the a-hole for getting mad at her judgy ass, and you have nothing to prove to her or anyone else." And Jenny Thur says, "Not the a-hole. She doesn't get to decide when you eat meat or not. You thanked her, so clearly they were grateful, and she immediately accused you of not being grateful? People that dishonest are people I would avoid being around, and that's before getting into the rest of her bizarre, largely incoherent rant." So I guess I throw it to you guys. I feel like the answer is obvious, but are you still on the OP's side down in the comments there? Let me know. And our next post is by user Throw Icy Hissed, titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my dad that my stepmom deserves every penny she has gotten? So my 27 male, stepmom, 53 female, has been in my life since I was 1 year old. My mum dropped out of my life when I was 3 months old, and I've never met her. My dad started a business when I was 10, and my half-siblings were 5 and 8. My stepmom would take care of us when we go home from school, and then work 6 to 8 hours a day for my dad's business. I would remember her going out to distribute marketing materials, driving out with him to trade shows, do his accounting into the early hours of the morning, and filling in the blanks for employees who either quit or were absent in some way. Basically, she worked close to full-time, and she would only take $1 a year because she wanted my dad to put her would-be salary back into the business. When his business started turning a large profit, around when I was 16, she worked more part-time, but still never took a salary. But I feel like what she added emotionally to my siblings and I was worth more than she could have been paid in a full-time, skilled job, because my dad was distant and a difficult person. However, 2 years ago, they suddenly split up and my dad moved out. But then my stepmom still worked part-time for free, but was mostly staying at home. But my dad, we thought, was also close to being semi-retired. At the end of their divorce, my stepmom got 50% of my dad's business. My dad is absolutely furious. He called the system unfair, said that this was a tax on his hard work that deters further innovation from him, and that my stepmom didn't build his business. She merely stepped back and allowed him to do so. Every time he comes over to my house or comes to events for any of his 3 kids, he's angry. His greatest hits of complaints include, "Your stepmom took herself out of the workforce and that's her fault. What has she ever done to get free money?" The final straw was when yesterday, he complains that his girlfriend, 25 female, yells at him every day over the fact that my stepmom is basically a business partner now, and that if I was able to work 70 hours a week 16 years ago, she should be able to do the same at Walmart for the next 20 years. I finally snapped and said that until he can bite his tongue about my stepmom, I didn't want him coming over anymore. I also told him that in my opinion, my stepmom deserves every penny she's getting, and if I were the judge, I would have given her all of that and more. Am I the a-hole for being fed up? OP has offered the following explanation for why they think they might be the a-hole. I might be the a-hole for kicking him out of my house. I get on the one hand he feels like something valuable to him has been taken away, but I didn't really think it was all his to begin with. In this situation, I think he deserved to be kicked out of your house. He's more than welcome to be resentful about the situation all he wants, as long as he keeps it to himself and out of your house. But he chose to continually kick up a stink and upset you in your house. You asked him to lay off and he continued. The only logical thing to do from there is to tell him to piss off and come back once he's got his head on straight. Besides that, I think we could all agree that his whining is unjustified, and this man is blind to the world around him, probably because he's the center of the universe. But yeah, morally, you're in the clear for kicking him out. That's unacceptable behavior on his part, and he deserved it, not the a-hole. Now in the comments, Owl City says, "Not the a-hole at all. I'm glad you stood up for your stepmom and that she's a big part of your life." Agreed. OP's father sounds like the guy who hates taxes because he built everything himself, as if the roads, public schools, libraries, and other public services didn't help turn him and his employees to the people they are today. Yup, he sounds like a classic narcissist. I've noticed in my life that they tend to be classist as well. It's sad that people act like that. And he's got the midlife crisis, girlfriend, 25, egging him on, knowing nothing about what he actually experienced, objectively. Not the a-hole. This lady not only looked after his children as a mother, but also worked at the company for essentially free. This is one of those times I'm glad the courts weighed so heavily in her favor against the entitled arrogance of your father. Kudos for having a spine and sticking up for her. They didn't even weigh heavily in my opinion. You pay someone $1 a year for full-time work for over a decade? To me, that's half your business worthy. You have your spouse not only work, but also take care of your previous and current kids. Again, half your business. So do all that and spout bullcrap? Solidifies it to me. F that guy. Don't forget that he then dumps his wife, expecting her to get nothing, and then turns around and gets a gold digging. She's complaining that his ex owns half the company, she's a gold digger, girlfriend, that's younger than his own son. Not the a-hole. Your entire post was explained right here, his girlfriend, 25 female. He built up the business to get himself a trophy wife, and now he's mad that he couldn't just leave the stepmom high and dry. Real class act. Yup, a lot of people want to be able to divorce their spouse and leave them with nothing. I saw a guy once make a post that he believed women shouldn't be able to take anything from a husband during a divorce. A little questioning, and he believed that even in the case of a housewife supporting her husband with nothing to fall back on, is taking that risk when she gets married. A lot of dudes want the live-in maid, nanny, cook, and sex partner, but feel like they're the ones taking care of her, and that she should be on the street penniless if he decides to leave. I really liked that lately the narrative has been shifting regarding traditional gender roles, that the man never really supported the woman, but instead that women supported men's ability to have a career by doing all the childcare, housework, cooking, and even often taking care of the man's health via managing things like his appointments and schedules, etc. Oftentimes, the difference between having a wife and having a mum for these sorts of dudes is that they're having sex with the wife. Alright guys, I think that's where I'm going to end today's video. If you need a good laugh, please do check out my second channel, Marky2, links down in the description below, or it's going to appear somewhere on the screen here at the end, little bubble with my face on it. As always, a big shout out to my Patreon and channel members. Your faces are surrounding me right now, and I love to have you guys with me, and down in the comment sections of each and every video, and just knowing that you're always there to support me. It's a humbling and lovely feeling. And rest assured, I do see you, and I do notice your support, and I thank you every day for being here and helping me along this journey. Not much else to say besides that, guys. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I do hope that you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you're up to. I will see you in the next video, and thank you again. Bye.